And we are live and in living color.
Good morning.
The newly confirmed Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors Vice President and friend.
And the newly confirmed Hudson, what are you? Hudson, what's our MLS?
I often ask that question. It's a very existential question.
What the heck is our MLS called now? Hudson Gateway MLS.
The Hudson Gateway MLS, right.
HGMLS President
Right.
Phil Faranda.
Right, it was 2014 after a successful coup d'etat.
Yes.
Okay, so reminds me of Groucho's remark, I wouldn't want to belong to a club that would have me as a member. Judy Guzzi, who's a broker in Ossining, laughed when I said to her, "Do they realize what they're doing?" And she laughed, because she knew me when. Okay, so pricing. We want to talk about pricing real estate.
Last night I had an interesting experience. I have these two,
Many of our conversations start out with that premise, Jen, I have to say.
I know. But so I have these $2 million listings in Putnam County, as you know. One's in Mahopac, one's in Carmel. You did the open house. That is one of the. I've watched that Vine like 100 times because it cracks me up. So, and I can't share it. It won't let me share it. So you have to share that for me. I want it on my page.
I'll get you the embed link. And
so you did the open house. So the one in Carmel has had one showing. And what is it? It's like 3 months. And the one in Mahopac has had 6 showings, which is actually pretty good for the price range. Price per square foot, they're both the lowest in their competition. And even for sold comparables. And so I spend a lot of my time, and we did one price reduction in Carmel, and I almost like regret it. And this is a conversation I've had with the seller, so I'm not speaking publicly about things I haven't spoken with my clients about. And I almost regret the price reduction on Carmel because in this scenario, it's not so much price as it is the amount of, what is that called? Demand?
Right.
Or how many buyers there are in the price range, in the area, so on and so forth. So it gets tricky.
All right, well, so the dynamics of our particular market kind of emanate from the hub of Manhattan. Okay? So Manhattan recovered first, then the outer boroughs. Southern Westchester is hot. The dominoes falling in northern Westchester, but the recovery wave has not yet hit Putnam the way it has 30 miles south. I think that's fair to say.
Right.
So if someone's going to spend $900,000 and they don't necessarily need a barn or 3 acres, why would they go all the way north, is the thought of some, when they can stay in south of the Westchester-Putnam border and be closer to Manhattan for the same money.
Right. So that's exactly right. So you have a house that's priced correctly compared to actives and recently sold comps, and the urge is to just reduce that price, but price isn't necessarily, it's getting the buyer. It's not necessarily price. It's not price, I don't think. I don't think price is going to make the difference.
I don't know. I mean, theoretically, if you reduce the price of a $900,000 house to $500,000, it would sell.
Exactly.
Right?
But that's not doing any service.
That would be a little bit of a problem. So market value is not, there's many metrics of value. There is assessed value, which is put on by the municipality for taxing purposes. There is appraised value, which is put on by the lender for lending purposes, because they don't want to lend on collateral that is worth more than the money outlaid in the loan. But real market value is simply what the buying public, the ready, willing, and able buying public, is willing to spend on real estate. So unfortunately, and this is because I'm kind of a market value purist, I believe that it's always price, because if you lowered the price to a certain price point, that because supply exceeds demand, someone would come along.
But I think in the higher end price point, like if someone's in the market and they're between, you know, they can go to 900,000, and you take the 850 house and you price it at 750. That buyer would have come along anyway, and they would have probably paid the 850.
I agree. It could be timing.
Yeah.
It could be other external factors. Look, we've got a government shutdown which has put a little bit of a damper on the returning consumer confidence that we were seeing. And we've got a seasonal cyclical dynamic to our market where, you know, it's really hot in the spring, cools off in the summer, and by the time the holidays come, it's almost goes into hibernation.
Right.
And then we say in our local market that spring starts January 2nd, unless the Giants are good, weather permitting. Hey, Jets can be good too, Jen, but, you know, they have to be good at some point. Okay? So unless one of the New York football teams gets to the playoffs, Sundays are house hunting days. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going into the slow cycle.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting point. That's something else that happened this week. We accepted a deal on one of my listings, accepted an offer on one of my listings, and the house has had about 15 showings. This was the only offer.
Uh-huh.
And so they need a seller's appraisal. Seller's concession. So the seller sent me an email with a question of, it was unfortunate when we were negotiating, the seller was literally packing and getting on a plane to go away and this and that, so it wasn't, typically I would sit and go over something like this, a seller's concession, with the seller in more detail, but it just didn't happen with everything that was going on in their life. So her question was, if the house appraises for the 3% more, couldn't we have sold it for the 3% more? And that was exactly my answer. The appraisal, it really doesn't necessarily reflect the final sales price. The market, what buyers are willing to pay is what the final sales price is, and the appraisal is going to be what the bank is willing to finance. It's two totally different things.
Yeah, and it's not just price, it's terms. And so the terms have to be attractive to the buyer. If you can't, I'll tell you this much, the buyer may not have paid that much. However, price can be influenced by terms. So if you do the terms better, then you've got yourself a deal. I'll give you a good example of that. You want to know how to sell a house $100,000 over market value?
Nothing down. The seller owns, finances the note at really good interest rate.
Good dish. All right. So I will buy a house for $100,000 over market value, and you will too, for nothing down, and the seller holding paper at 2% with a 40-year amortization and a 25-year balloon payment. How's that sound? Could we sell that?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All day and all night.
And reverse, I have a lot of investors that buy properties from people by just giving them like $80,000 cash now.
Mm-hmm.
And they buy it way under market value, but the seller can stay in the property like forever. Actually, I think they call it like a life financing, and then when they die, the buyer gets the property. They're just cashing out.
That is, that's a quasi-reverse mortgage, I suppose. It's what it is. It's a future option. I don't know the exact term for it, but that's in the, the investors, speculator kind of sector. That's a guy that probably doesn't trust Wall Street.
I wonder how you would report that sale.
Not our headache. Not our headache. Data title transfer, I suppose. But the thing that people need to understand about price is that we as agents, we as brokers, experience a tension between the perception that we want to give their place away to make a fast buck and the perception on our part that they want a king's ransom for their place because they have heavy-duty nails and they have really great shag carpet, top of the line shag carpet, right?
Yep.
So the truth is, we don't want the house to be given away. The nightmare scenario is to have my seller say to me, did we price it too low? Because we got a buyer quickly. And of course, nobody wants the phone call, okay, it's been 3 months, no one's seen it, what's the problem? You were a hot shot. So you don't want to rot, but you also don't want to give the place away. So you want to find that happy medium.
Right.
Where you'll maximize what the seller gets without alienating the buying public.
See, but and that's exactly the $2 million listings I have up here. I don't think there is a happy medium. I think there's either you're going to give it away or you're going to have to wait.
I think in your case, given the conditions of the market, all you can do is wait for the spring market to come and for more people to come out and just have your best dancing dress on when the people come.
Right.
The one I was in was a little zombified and reptilian. So, you know, maybe the Halloween stuff needs to go away after Halloween.
Well, tonight's the party.
Okay.
So after the party.
Okay. I'll get you a link to that Vine. But they had some interesting stuff. I mean, I'm looking at the statue of the lovers, and yeah.
That is the funniest Vine ever.
Okay, so there's an adage I heard at the negotiating course that we took with Westchester Real Estate a few months ago, that when you're overpriced, the buyers don't look and the lookers don't buy. And I'll draw out a scenario of something more in the red meat, regular folks, not $1 million place, but just like regular folks pricing, where being overpriced actually costs you money. So yeah. Here's the typical objection of the seller who doesn't want to reduce their price. They want wiggle room. If I lower my price to the number you are recommending, that then somebody's just going to come in the same geometric ratio lower, and I'm going to lose money. Okay? Which is, it's a fallacy, but it's difficult to explain that to them. So I'll give you an anecdote of what happened, okay? We have a house in Rockland County. They overpriced it. Crazy. Here's how they priced it. You ready? Prior broker. Where do you want to price it? The seller said, well, my husband's birthday is July 20-something, so let's price it at 720-something. Right? Because it was conspicuous consumption. It was the peak. You could get anything you wanted for your house, right? So after a year, they expired with that agent, realizing that this is not, you know, that easy. When I got the listing, they were down to 625. I got the listing for 625. Nothing happened. We reduced it to 599, and there was some market activity which indicated that they were probably worth 550.
Right.
If they reduced to 575, they would get 550. But when you're overpriced, what? The lookers don't buy and the buyers don't look. The only people that make offers on overpriced listings are people that don't care. People that are afraid of insulting you. People want to do business with people who look like they want to do business. So the regular guy looking for a property does not make an offer on overpriced real estate.
It has to be the perfect person, or just the perfect buyer. Like
so the only sort of guy that makes or gal that makes an offer on overpriced real estate is someone that doesn't even look at price. They look at what's under the hood and they offer what they think. And those are usually the guys that are the lowball artists. Those are the guys that you know, come in with you know, so we're at $599. This guy comes in $475 cash today. So my sellers are pissed, and I say to them, there's a lot of people that would give you $550 tomorrow for this house, but they don't even know it exists because there's so little consumer confidence that they're afraid to look above a certain price point because they know somebody who's been touched by foreclosure or bankruptcy in this horrible economy. I said, you've got to make it more attractive. They would eventually never reduce to the number that I told them to until they had an offer on the table of $500. They reduced it to $575, which at the time when they were chasing the market, they needed to be at $550 by then. And they ended up selling for $528 when we actually had two offers, neither of which would go over $520, $525. And I had the two people sitting there looking at one another saying, well, that's the best we're going to do. If they had just reduced it to where I recommended, they might have gotten someone who would have paid them more, but wasn't looking that high. And at the very least, they would have had these offers in their pocket.
And how long ago was this?
This closed in 2010 or 2011 when the market was just abhorrent, when it was a terrible market.
So that's it too. So now there's a shift in pricing because at that point you're chasing the market down, you know, and that was very dangerous if you didn't get priced correctly. So that's something else that I struggle with is the fact that now we're sort of, you know, it's a little bit slower here in Putnam as far as the sales price, you know, going up. But we're not chasing the market down like we were.
No, you're not.
A year or two ago. So, you know, being able to price, taking a risk, you know, with the seller to, you know, the comparables are all over the place. All over the place. I mean, you can go to one house and it's because of the short sales and the traditional resales and blah, blah, blah. So you go and you try to price point this one house and you can have $100,000 differentiation. So, you know, being willing to go to the high end of that and then just, you know, judging what the market bears as you put it on the market. But I see a lot of agents just are still in that mindset of that you have to price it at the lower end of that spectrum, and I don't necessarily agree with that. And I have two sales this year that I ended up selling $50,000 to $75,000 higher than anybody else was even willing to price it at.
Well, yeah, my example was more in regular folks, not a high-end $1 million.
No, I'm talking about regular folks now. The one, the Vista Terrace in Mayapack.
Okay, so that's indicative of a changing market. Look, what did we just see in New York City about 18 months ago? The founder of ForSaleByOwner.com couldn't sell his New York City apartment on his own, listed with a guy we know. The guy raised the price $200,000 from $2 million to $2.2 million and sold it.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, we see examples of it all the time. I mean, you know, I can, not everybody knows this, but you know this. I ran a for sale by owner assistance company from 2005 to 2009 or so, on the side, internet-based, and you never saw a train wreck like a for sale by owner. I mean, ever. And I mean, just like, we stopped doing it not because it didn't make money. We stopped doing it because we felt like we were contributing to people's hardship. Now, with the amount of short sales and listings that we've gotten sold, a lot of them came in the wake of a FSBO event. Either they overpaid as a buyer, or they were a seller that couldn't get out of their own way. And most people just don't realize we are worth the money. Not all of us are worth the money, but the ones who know what we're doing are worth our weight in gold. So, where are we? It's an art and it's a science to price it. I think in your case, what the people have to understand. I'm getting an echo.
I'm not.
Yeah, we're a little behind.
Are you now? Echo, echo, echo.
This is one of those times, and I wish they would put one of those things that they used to put on Channel 11 late night with the test pattern. Please stand by. Doesn't matter. Okay. Train of thought. I wish we could hit rewind on this.
Train of thought.
What was I just saying?
Art and a science.
Yeah, it's an art and a science. Duh.
In my case, you said it, Jen. In your case.
Well, okay, so this is what I would say in your case. You have to tell the sellers, and this is what I was going to say. Time costs money, money costs time. And if we don't want to sell for less, then there's a strong possibility that we'll not sell right away. So extend me through the spring so that I can be on the case when the spring market comes. And I think we'll see a lot of inventory go in the spring market. I think there's going to be a lot of offers made and a lot of deals done in the spring market.
So here, because of the fact that I am so confident, and I in my entire career, this might be the only time I've ever been as confident as I am in that it's marketed correctly, it has maximum exposure, and it's just perfect. Mm-hmm. So that helps when it comes to the pricing. That you've done everything that you can do to get that house sold at the most amount for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. Still not moving. But the instinct would be that it is price. But that level of confidence is something necessary to have in order to be able to price correctly.
Well, that's why we're confident. Now it's interesting. When you first joined the company, you left that large vulgar franchise and you joined this small agile independent, and we engaged the client at that coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that she said to us was that she wasn't happy with the market exposure she got at big box, and that she felt far more confident that she was getting better exposure with us. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. When I started in this business, if we said to someone that we're not selling, it looks like we have to reduce our price or do something different, maybe you need to clean up, they would say, well, you didn't run an ad in the newspaper. Now we don't have exposure as a consideration because we can show people the web analytics of how many people are viewing their property. We can show them how many clicks their house is getting on the main websites that are trafficked by people who are looking for real estate. We can show them that people know what kind of shower curtain they have and what kind of linens they have. Buyers lurk online and see so much about property now, and sellers themselves can find out more about the marketing of the house from technology than we could even 5 years ago. I can show people, for example, how many other agents have saved a search for a prospect with criteria that matches their house. So if you've got a 3-bedroom, 3-bath ranch with a pool, I can show you that there's 612 agents in our NLS that saved a search where they wanted a ranch with 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, and a pool at your price point in your locale, which is 600 and some odd buyers who have all said no to even looking at your house or bidding on it. And the only objection we can have is that either the buyers even haven't sold their house yet, and they shouldn't be looking, or they can't justify the price. Now there might be other things. If something has a lot of traffic and there's no offers, then we need to look at things like staging. We need to look at smoking odor. We need to look at pet odor. We need to see if the seller is walking around chattering at them instead of letting them look at the house, alone with their agent, like a dressing room in a department store. But it's hard to take price out of it on most properties.
Yeah.
Most. All right. Price per square footage to me is also far more valuable for an apartment or a condo or a co-op where there's uniformity than with properties that have varying locations and different types of yards and that sort of thing. So something might have $100 per square foot smaller, $100 per square foot higher price that sells because it had a larger lot, it had a stream or a pond, it had a mountain view, and it was literally a mile from downtown, whereas something up a dirt road with no view, smaller lot, is priced $100 less per square foot and is almost the identical house.
Yeah, but then you just make adjustments. I mean, I tend to look at price per square foot more than anything, but I make adjustments before I compare,
Hence it being an art and a science.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's when it does come in handy to really know certain neighborhoods. There's just some areas, like we were talking about Silver Lake, where you can't really justify why things sell for the prices that they're selling for, and you can go half a mile out of that area and it won't compare whatsoever.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of interesting little enclaves and communities where how do you value the fact that you grew up a block away?
Right.
How do you value the fact that grandma and grandpa are instant free daycare right up the street?
Right.
I mean, you can't. So there's a lot that goes into this. I'll give you another example of why it's an art and a science and why appraisals are not always accurate in predicting market events. BPOs. How often do we have a short sale where someone does a robotic BPO, price per square foot, wildly inaccurate, and it kills a short sale because there's a lack of local knowledge, there's a fundamental lack of understanding about the marketing history of that particular property, and they just did a robotic formulaic BPO, broker price opinion, where they are wildly overpriced because they didn't even bother to find out why this thing hasn't sold for 2 years, and that the price they recommend is a number I couldn't get people to come look a year ago. So there's a lot more to it.
Right.
There's a lot more to it. What else about pricing?
I think that's it. It's just good to observe the trends and what's happening, and to make that shift to you're not chasing the market down. But in my scenario up here, you're not necessarily chasing the market up either.
Well, in your scenario, the people may just have to wait until the wave of buyers comes in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that there's never been. I mean, $1 million price range up here has always been a tough price point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So time costs money, money costs time. They just have to wait.
Right.
By the way, we peaked out at 6 viewers. Do you know that? And I think the part where I lost my train of thought is probably where we lost them all.
We had 6 viewers live?
Yeah. Yeah, we had 6 viewers. Well, between us, we have 6,000 followers, so I don't know that that's really a terribly... Is that a lot to brag about? I mean...
How many people do you have following you on Vine now?
I don't know. 120, but...
You're my favorite Vine person.
Oh, come on, please. Yeah. The guys that I'm following, a lot of them are beyond hilarious. I mean, these are people that are like, they should be in movies. But I would say 90 of my Vine followers are bots. They're spam bots. Like Vine Money and Vine Cash and Vine King. You know, and it's like they're just, you know, you click on their profile like, make $800 a day surfing Vine.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's it for pricing. You know, the seller's concession is an interesting, you know, whole another conversation, but
well, maybe this should be the final thought. Aside from pricing it right and it'll sell, and time costs money, money costs time, and that is that the one thing that will affect price is terms. Terms matter. I paid $75,000 higher, $50,000 higher for this house that I live in because they offered me a second mortgage. They offered to hold paper on a second mortgage if I would come up to, you know, their number.
no, I totally get that. Look, I just overpaid for a car for those reasons.
Yeah, price and terms.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, we will end our broadcast. It's been too long, so we'll have to do some more soon. Oh, by the way, the company's hiring. Oh, is there anything else you want to say?
Not yet.
Okay.
Too much to say. Too much to say. So that'll be a separate. That'll be next week's broadcast.
Fair enough.